Good afternoon, friends. If you are able to hear me, you can just drop a comment out here so that I'm aware that you're able to actually hear me out. So those who had joined using the earlier link, you may rejoin here, and then we'll start off. Maybe a quick 1 minute because there was some technical issue. Yeah. So we'll start off. I think people have started joining in. Right. This session is purely December based on yesterday's institute's announcement. So if you have any doubt, any query, how to approach the exam for the examination, you can drop it in the chat box. I'll take up the questions and I'll start taking them one by one. Now, the idea behind this session is to help CA Foundation students who would be taking up a professional examination for the first time, right? You have not taken any professional examination earlier. So for you, how should you approach this examination? This is not like a normal 11th exam or 12th exam or an undergraduate exam. It is a professional examination, right? So how should you approach? Now that has given 2 months of extra time, 2 months of time rather, so you have 2 months of time to prepare for an examination. How should you best utilize this time? And in those 3 hours or 2 hours of examination time, how should you approach your papers? Because how much ever preparation you do, the final result or the final outcome depends on what you write in the examination, right? So if you have any query regarding how to present a paper, how to handle MCQ type questions, how to handle paper 3 and paper 4, you can feel free to write it down here. So to begin with, you have 2 months of time in hand, roughly 2 months, not exactly 2 months. Divide them into 4 parts and ensure that you allocate equal time or maybe 60% and 40% kind of a ratio, and take up 2 subjects every day to ensure that you complete the syllabus in the given time. Now, still, those who have not fully started their preparation, you have sufficient time to complete the syllabus. So consider this as a boon and write and start your preparation right away, right? So one thing is, you have 2 months in hand. 2 months you can bucket them. So if you prepare well for 2 months, you will roughly be having about 400 to 500 hours of preparation time. So but already finished maybe one round of preparation or one round of revision, you can use this time to practice more and revise more. Now coming to paper specific strategy, it is will be more focusing on how will you write papers, let's say accounting or law, or when it comes to objective type, how should you handle a particular paper. So to begin with, accounting, that is your first paper, and please note, this being the first paper should be the best paper that you write, and it's quite scoring as well. Now when it comes to accounting, most of the questions would be numerical based. I'll not call them practical or theory, they'll be mostly numerical based. Now, in accounting, things that you need to keep in mind while you're writing your examinations is, number one, proper working notes. A lot of students do not write working notes even at final level and at inter level, and they lose out on marks. Working notes are very, very important for your paper one, which is accounting, right? Now, wherever we are handling, let's say there is a true or false question. In accounting, we have a true and false section. There, apart from writing your answer true and false, you have to give proper explanation, right? Then while preparing bank reconciliation statements, or while preparing partners capital account, or if at all a question comes from company's account, ensure that the format and the tables are prepared properly. Don't try to string everything onto a single page. If required, use 2 pages. A lot of students have a doubt that how do I prepare partners capital account? So that partner capital account you can prepare using 2 pages, or you can prepare in a horizontal manner, right? So using that, you will be able to prepare and present the capital accounts properly. Please note, don't try to scribble around and try to use very little space while writing your answers, because if the numbers are not clear, you will lose out on marks, right? Now in accounting, there will be some questions which are maximum marks out of them. In any paper you see, you will understand that about 50% of the paper is easy to attempt. See, the problem that we have while we are preparing, even I had that problem when I was a student. We think that the most difficult question will come in the examination. I don't know this particular problem of differentiation. What will happen if that comes in the examination? So each one of us will be facing or will be going through this situation like, what if the institute asks me this particular question? I do not know. And we'll keep on accumulating all the difficult questions only to realize that in the real examination, maybe 2 or 3 such questions will come. That is not what I'm saying that it will not come. You may get 2 or 3 questions of that category, but by and large, 50 to 60 will be easy. I take any past examination paper, try to solve it. Half of the paper can be easily solved, which means scoring that passing marks of 40 to 50 should not be a challenge, provided you are prepared well, you are conceptually thorough, and you understand the concepts and you are able to write them in the examination, right? So this is one category. 30% around, roughly 30% of the question will be of difficulty level which is slightly higher, and obviously you'll have 10 to 20 marks which will be tough. Now my request to all of you is to focus on the 70 to 80% of the questions that you can attempt properly. Don't look upon the questions which you are finding difficult at the first glance itself. If a question is difficult and if you are not able to answer that, then it is better that you leave that question out for doing it towards the end. Let me give you one, my own example. In which is generally the one of the toughest part in the paper, and we spend a lot of time in understanding and mastering consolidation, like what you have for partnership, right? You keep on preparing again and again for partnership because you feel that partnership is difficult, or not for profit organization is difficult. Similarly, we used to have consolidation, understand, and I had not come across earlier. Now there are two things. Number one, because I have read it so many number of times and because I've spent so much of time, I should break my head to solve that question or keep it aside and do it at the end. What I did was I kept aside and I did. If at all you get a new question, if at all you get a, leave it, do it towards the end. Don't waste your time in those 3 hours to figure out what is to be done or how should I solve this particular problem. If you cannot understand, fine, take a break, do the questions which you can do, and towards the get a hint that you will be able to answer it properly. A paper in which you have attempted 80 to 90 marks properly, you will get decent scores. So that should not be a problem, right? So you have to take care of presentation, you have to take care of working notes, use of proper formats. And one thing which is very different in CA is institute expects you to answer all the parts of the question in a sequence. For example, if you have questions like 1A, B, C, D, then A, B, C, D should be answered together at a single place. Earlier, there was no such restriction. Now also there is no such restriction, but make sure that you answer A, B, C, D at the same place. So question number 1, all the subparts should be together. Now, sir, what should we do if we don't know, subpart B, or if we do not know subpart C? Leave 2 pages of space. Finish whatever you can. Let's say you don't know B, solve A, solve C, solve D. B, you can come back later and do it. And even at a later point of time, if you feel that, I'm not able to answer this, simply strike off that page and leave it blank. Okay. Don't do 1A first, then 2B, then, 2A, then 3B, then 1C. You will confuse the examiner, right? And now with digital marking, it becomes more difficult for the examiners to track what you have done. So do all the questions for a single question, all the parts of a single question at a single place. So that is one thing you need to keep in mind. Now coming to your paper 2, which is your business law and business communication and reporting, there it is more of a theory. Obviously in BCR you will be required to write maybe some letter, or maybe write some summary or make some notes. That is there, but it's more of a written examination. Again, for law, a lot of students, because you are writing law for the first time, you have a doubt that should we remember sections? Should we write sections in the examination? Let me tell you one thing. In my entire career of CA Foundation, Inter, and in Foundation we did not have at that point of time. So Inter and Final, I hardly remembered maybe 20% of the sections. What is important is, do you understand the concept behind the section? Do not break your head, or do not waste your time in learning sections by heart. If it comes to you naturally as you are preparing, it is perfectly fine, there is no problem. But if you are finding it difficult, don't waste time in remembering the section. Otherwise what would happen is, if you write 31 instead of 13, you will lose out of entire marks. So better lose that half mark or 1 mark for the section, but write the concepts properly. If you can remember, or if you are able to remember, no problem, please write the sections. Now when it comes to questions in law, and especially when there are case studies based question, I suggest you to divide the questions, the answers, into 3 to 4 parts. The first part talking about the provisions that is being asked in the question. So as per the Sale of Goods Act, or as per the Partnership Act, so you don't have as per the Partnership Act, or as per the Companies Act, or as per the Indian Contract Act, this is the provision. Then next step is analyze the case. Means A sold goods to B, or A promised to do something for B gave something back in return for A. Analyze whatever is the fact briefly. Now one mistake what a lot of students do is, they reproduce the entire question in this analysis section. It is not copying the question and writing it again. It is about what is the gist of the question. So summarize that in the analysis part. Then in the third part, relate the analysis with the provisions of the law. Okay, A did this, B did this, as per the law this is not supposed to be done, and hence whatever A has done is incorrect, something like that, right? Try to link it back to the case, the facts of the case and the provisions of the law. And lastly, and very, very important, write the conclusion. For example, if the question says, is the action done by Mr. A valid? Now your answer should be, as per the Indian Contract Act, the action done by A is not valid, right? So depending on what is the question asking, the last line of the question, now it could be like, it asks you to decide what is to be done, it asks you to decide whether A is right or not, decide what are the penalty provisions. What is the thing that the question has asked, that you should try to summarize in the conclusion. If you do not write this conclusion, you will lose out on 1 mark. Very clearly you will lose out on 1 mark. And coming to accounting, if you do not write narration, you will lose 2 to 3 marks, right? So make sure in accounting, working notes and narrations, definitely. In question like law, you have to be very clear not to quote wrong sections, and to ensure that you prepare a framework for answering the case-based question. If it is a direct question, if it says to you to explain the provisions of the law, then you can write it in your own, own language. So you can keep on asking questions. I'll take it towards the end, so that there will be a consolidated response to that, right? I'll take it up towards the end. Then when it comes to business communication and reporting, it is more about your understanding of English and communication and report writing, right? So it depends on how good grasp you have over that particular subject. Very important, again, when you write reports or when you make notes, no need to write pages and pages. I remember during our intermediate, that is 10+2, or during our BCom, we were told that you have to write as much as possible. Keep on writing, keep on filling the pages. Examiner will sit with a scale, he will measure the length of your answers, and he will give you marks. But friends, when it comes to CA examination, when you're writing the professional examination, most of you are writing the first time, please note that number of pages of your answers do not matter. I remember one of my seniors who had just written about 8 or 9 pages in the entire paper of law of CA final, and yet he ended up scoring 64 marks, right? So it doesn't matter that, whether you're filling up pages after pages. What matters is what is the quality that you're giving to the examiner. And one more thing that is one more thing is very particular to CA examination is, you are expected to write each answer in a different sheet of paper. That is, if you are starting with question number 1, 1A has to be on a separate page, 1B has to be on a separate page, 1C has to be on a separate page, 1D has to be on a separate page. Except for true and false, you can write it together. But for others, ensure that you start a fresh question on a separate page. See, you have paid fees to the institute, so don't worry or don't think that if you take more papers you'll have to pay more. Anyways, you have paid off the fees, so utilize it to the maximum. Not by filling unnecessary answers, but by starting each question on a separate page, right? That is very important. Then some students tend to do commit some minor errors in writing roll numbers and all. Try to avoid that. Coming to the next papers, which is your mathematics and then BCK and economics. These are objective type. Now, in the paper of mathematics, that is mathematics, stats and logical reasoning, you are not expected to write proper solutions as you do in your 10th standard or in 12th standard. You are not expected to do that. And you will be given the question paper. The question paper will have some free space. Now, in that free space, you are expected to do the working. So there is no necessity that you have to write everything in a neat manner there. You write as if you are preparing your rough work. Don't waste time in writing steps and steps and steps. To give you a simple example, if there is a question on simple interest, Now, normally, how will we write that in the exams? Normally, if you get a question on simple interest, you would say interest is equal to principal into rate into time divided by 100. Then given as per the question, principal is so much, rate is so much, time is so much, and then you will answer the question. Now, in objective type examination, you should not be wasting time in writing all of this. You can simply, for your noting purpose, you can directly start computing the interest amount. And in some cases, if you directly know the answer, or if the answer is pretty evident, directly tick the answer. No need to show your working to anybody. They will not give you marks based on your workings. They will give you marks based on the correct answer that you have chosen, right? So that is another thing which you need to keep in mind. Now, especially in mathematics and statistics, one thing that can help you is the substitution method, right? Sometimes you may not know the formula, sometimes you may not remember the formula. Many cases you can use the options given in the question and try to fit it in the question and see whether the particular option is correct or not. Now, even in questions like whenever you're talking about math, stats, LR and all, there will be some questions which will be simple and straightforward theory, a simple calculation, right? Not much of a complex working that is needed. Try to finish off those questions quickly so that whatever time is left out, you can dedicate for complex question. Like some people, some students are not comfortable with logarithms. They are not comfortable with differentiation or integration. Keep that aside. Do it towards the end. No need to worry. Another question what a lot of students have is, do we get long questions in the examination? Like in stats and all, do we have long questions? That is, do we get 5-mark question, 10-mark question? Institute doesn't ask that. You will only get 1 to 2 marks question as per the pattern that has been there for a long period of time, right? So try to use substitution method, try to use shortcut tricks, try to directly compute in your calculator. No need to prepare neat workings for anybody. Try to save time, right? Because you have only 2 hours for this examination. In 2 hours, you have to finish up 100 marks, right? Then coming to paper number 4, which is economics and business and commercial knowledge. Here, partly it depends on your memory, some specific question, but a lot of the questions come based on your understanding of the concept, right? So you are expected to understand the concepts and then go for the examination. Here you are not expected to learn things by heart. For example, there is no point in remembering what are the advantages of something or what are the disadvantages of something. If you're having a fair understanding, that is enough, right? Coming to BCK specifically, there is a chapter on your various business organizations. There is a lot of data involved. Who is the CEO? When was it founded? What is the revenue and all of that? Now, I do not suggest students to spend too much of time to remember that, because maximum you will get is some 2 or 3 marks out of that, remembering that specific CEO or revenue or other stuff, right? So for that 3 to 4 marks, how much time do you want to spend? Please compute that and spend time accordingly. What I suggest is prepare a summary kind of a thing in a small notebook, and before the examination, just keep on glancing through it so that by the time you reach the examination, it is clear, you have some idea of what is given in that particular chapter, right? Now, there are some questions which are coming up. Yeah, calculator you can definitely take. You will get the instructions along with your hall ticket as well. you will be allowed to take a basic calculator. I used to use Citizen CT100 calculator. If I have, I can just pull it out for you. Yeah, so this is the calculator which I've used all throughout my life. If you're using this, fine. If you're using some other calculator, that is also fine, right? You are allowed to take calculators, so you can take calculators in all your examination. In economics also you will need, because you have to compute elasticity of demand if at all the question asks, or you have to compute the average fixed cost if at all the questions ask. So you can take in even in the statistics examination. Don't worry, take the calculators, whichever you are using, Casio or Citizen CT100, whichever one it is, you can take it. Then how many pages? So earlier institute used to give answer books which had 36 pages. Now they give answer books which have 28 pages, right? And 28 pages most of the times will be sufficient. Maybe in accounts you may need an extra paper. They will give it to you, so no need to worry, you don't have to pay extra, you can take it. Then how do we study the entire subject in one day before examination? Very good question. Now asked by Sri Kanaga Varshini. So one thing is, it is not one day. You have a good 1.5 day, I should say, right? By the time you come back home, that evening you can leave, but the next day and the time before the examination, you have about 1.5 day. Now, can I read the entire study material in that point of time? No, it's very difficult to even target about that, and that should not be the strategy, because as you move to CA Inter or CA Final, you will have books which have 1400, 1500 pages. So reading everything before the examination is very difficult. So in the next 2 months, as you are preparing, what I want you to do is make a separate note of those concepts where you found something unique, or where you were stuck, or which you found difficult. So what I used to do is, whichever question I found it difficult, or whichever adjustment was confusing, I used to mark it separately in my book, and also note it down in a separate notebook. So in the study material as well as in a separate book, I used to note it down, so that before the examination I can glance through. Now the thing is, for accounts there is no problem, because before accounts you can have 3 or 4 days time where you can cover a lot of things. Problem happens when it comes to mathematics or law or BCK and economics. Now it is virtually impossible to complete everything in one day. So what you can do is, you take those areas which are difficult for you. Okay, there would be some subjects, some chapters in a subject which is easy for you. There would be some area which would be difficult. So try to finish off the difficult thing as quickly as possible after the examination, right? You can refer back to your running notes, you can refer to short notes that you have prepared, right? Finish that first, and then whatever time is left out, you can spend on balance chapters. So it is very difficult to allocate equal time for all the chapters. So what I used to do was, the first 3 days before the examination, I used to dedicate for the first paper, and after that used to cover up whatever is possible in the gap that is available. For mathematics and statistics, the most important part is the formula, remembering the formula, right? So we have a formula sheet available on the website, you can download it from there, and using that you can revise all the formulae, because once you know the formula, you can attempt the questions in the examination, right? That is one question. Then how many hours for paper 3 and 4? It's 2 hours. Can we carry a basic calculator? As I told you, take it for your accounts exam, for maths exam, and also for economics exam. Can we draw ledger account in horizontal? Yes, you can definitely draw in a horizontal format, or draw it in 2 sheets. But again, drawing in 2 sheets I will not advise, because when they will scan page by page, so it will be difficult for the examiner to give you marks. So draw it horizontally, use sufficient space, give sufficient spacing. Okay, Deepak, yes, we will definitely have one session for Inter as well. Hall tickets, so as per the provisions of the Chartered Accountants acts and regulations, they are expected to give you hall tickets about 20 days before the examination, right? So as per the November schedule, that time has already passed, but now because they have postponed the examination, you can expect hall ticket around first week of November. First week of November is when you can expect your hall tickets. Okay, once you get the hall tickets, please read through the instructions carefully, because you are writing a professional exam for the first time. So you can read through it properly and ensure that those guidelines are followed, right? Then how to plan for law and BCR. Now, again, as I told you earlier also, you have 2 months of time. Bucket that into, 2 months is roughly about 400 to 500 hours. If someone wants to start preparation or revision, what I would suggest is take one practical paper, take one theory paper. So for example, take paper 1, paper 2, and then take paper 3, paper 4. Every day try to do these 2 papers, like one theory and one practical, and do it over the period of next 45 days, so that you are able to complete the syllabus or complete the revisions, right? Then in the last 15 days before the examination, that should be your final marathon revision kind of a thing. Now, where to start, law or English? It's up to you. If you like English, start from English. If you want to start from law, you can start from law. Can we use both blue and black pens in the examination? Now, you can use, but what I would suggest is to use a black ballpoint pen, because they are now scanning the papers for some of the subjects, right? Now, because when they scan the papers, black ink would be prominent. Blue ink may lose, its color, or it may fade away when they're scanning. So try to use black pen. Yes, for drawing diagrams, for drawing tables and all, you can use pencil color, not color, sorry, you can use a pencil, normal pencil, and you can draw the ledger accounts and all. Law is boring. It was boring for me as well, but we have to live with it as you move it towards back on accounting also. At final level, you have 3 subjects with law, then you have audit altogether, right? So how to study? If someone is finding law boring and they are not able to grasp things, what I suggest is you allocate more time. Maybe every day you spend 2 hours, at least minimum 2 hours you should spend in reading this particular subject. Only once you start liking it, then you will be able to enjoy the subject and reading the subject and understanding, right? So electronic checking means it is not that computer will check, right? What institute is trying to do is they will scan your papers and they will send it to the examiners, right? So for some papers of inter and final, this is already implemented. We do not know what is the status for CA Foundation, but given that the current situation we are in, I think almost all the papers would be checked digitally using a computer screen. Then is it compulsory to mention section numbers? I have told earlier also, it is not compulsory to mention section numbers. Write the theory properly, explain the theory properly, it is fine. If you remember, you can write. How to present case law? There is a separate video available on this. Again, I have also told it during this session. Divide it into 4 parts. First, write the provision of the law, right, as per the Indian contract. So if you don't remember the section, you can simply say as per the Indian Contract Act. Okay, a contract entered into with a minor is void, something like that. You can explain the provision. Then summarize the facts of the case. Don't repeat the question. Summarize the facts of the case. Then apply the case to the provisions and write your conclusion. Okay. How many hours should I study in the revision schedule? At least 10 hours should be, what you should be spending at least from now onwards till your examination, right? Then a lot of students, what they try to do is, they try to spend 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours. So if you do that, you will burn out your energy. So better spend about 8 to 10 hours every day. That should be sufficient at a final level, at the foundation level. Diagrammatic way. See, unless you explain it properly, you may not be able to get marks. So drawing flowcharts or something to give answer may be a good way, provided you have written the full answer separately. Just by drawing flowcharts, you may not be able to score full marks. Okay. Can I use 2 colors of pen? Yes, you can use 2 colors, but again, advisable is to use only black pen. Right. Then what are the stationery items you should carry? You carry at least 3 to 4 pens, 1 calculator, 1 pencil, scale, eraser. That should be sufficient. Carry a small stapler if you have, so that you can stitch the paper, extra papers that you have taken to the main paper. That is what would be needed. Then how to score maximum marks in mathematics? Only next time to do the maths question. Now see, Hina, very good question. If you have to, score maximum marks in mathematics, again I told you, take any model test paper and see, you will understand that about 50 to 60% of the paper is straightforward or is simple. So first try to tackle those questions. Means the questions, by looking at the question itself, you know, yes, I can solve this. For example, if the question is about asking about mean, or if the question is asking about a simple probability question, or if it is a simple permutation or combination question, or it is a simple question from time value of money, which is straightforward, or set theory, which you can simply by looking at the question itself, you have the confidence that yes, I can solve this question. Try to do those questions first. And as I told earlier also, there is no need to write neatly the steps of solution for mathematics. No need to do that. If I were you, and if the question was asking what is the interest, I would simply put, take it on the paper, write the principal, rate, time, and divide it by 100, and then finish it off. Okay. So that is what you should be targeting. Don't waste your time in beautifying your workings, because nobody will check that. Okay. You can directly, try to find out shortcuts and attempt the questions. Any mathematics chapter that we can skip? For the first round of reading, I do not suggest that you skip any chapter, right? Towards the revision time, if you feel that some chapter is too much of a bouncer kind of a thing and you are not able to spend too much time for that, then you may think of skipping, but at least run through the formula, because who knows, you get a very simple question from a very complex chapter. Okay. How to approach and revise tax? Siddharth, I think for inter we'll do it separately, right? This is a foundation session. Then, does Institute provide OMR sheets? Yes, we provide OMR sheets as well. For foundation, Indigo Learn provide only less number of question paper for practice in app. So see, if MCQs we have added sufficient. We have one mock test paper. And if you want to practice more papers, what we suggest is you should go back to the institute's past exam questions and mock test papers, because they will actually test you on and you do each chapter independently, because every pick up a question you believe that this is the most difficult thing to come in the examination, and that is our human psychology. So for this, take up a mock test paper. Let us say we have a mock test paper on our app as well, or you can go to the institute website and take their mock test papers. Try to attempt a mock test paper. Once you attempt a mock test paper, you will realize that, oh yes, 50 to 60% I can easily handle. Then your confidence will automatically build up. Try to attempt simpler questions first, then it will help you to build up your confidence. Try to get small things correct. Gradually, you will be able to handle the larger things as well. Right? So I think we have covered briefly, we have covered the overall approach. So a quick summary if I have to do. Sir, each year there is amendment in law. Does Indigo revise the video? Yes, we do revise the videos. We also provide supplementary videos for whenever there are amendments. In foundation level, there are very few amendments and changes, right? Which one is harder, apps MTP or ICA MTP? I think you have to attempt them to figure out which one is harder, right? So you can check that out, and then you can do an assessment. We try to make the MTPs as close to the exam standard as possible, right? So as we summarize this session, so a few things to keep in mind. One, for accounting, ensure that you have proper one for accounting and all, maintain proper formats, maintain proper working notes, write narration. For law, case study should be properly written. Sections avoid if you cannot remember. For maths, BCK and Eco, try to make it faster by attempting easier questions first, right? If you attend mock test paper in ICI website and send to Indigo Learn for correction, I don't think we'll be able to help you with the corrections there, but if you have any doubt in that particular thing, you can ask us. Now, the best way for you to, if you are attempting mock test papers of ICI, they give you the solutions also. So you can, solve the questions and compare the main solutions with whatever you have written. You will get an idea of where is the difference, right? Study schedule, we have a study schedule already up there for November exams, right? So you can modify that according to your timings and you can use it. Opt-out option, Institute has mentioned that they will give an opt-out option. We have to wait for the announcement. How to retain information for longer period of time? One simple technique is whatever you read today. Let's say today is day 1 and you have completed one particular topic or few topics on day 1. Before you start day 2, quickly revise day 1 whatever you have learned. Okay, so quickly revise whatever you have learned. You will be able to retain it for a longer period of time. And another technique to retain things for a longer period of time is to keep on writing as you read or as you study, because as you write, you will be able to retain it for a longer period of time, right? So that is what will help you to retain the information for a longer period of time. Can we prepare account in landscape view? Yes, you can present the account in landscape view, and I'm telling it again and again, especially for partners capital account, please use landscape view. Students who prepare capital accounts in portrait view, examiner will keep on searching for answers and they'll never reach it, right? So please use it. And one way you can save by preparing columnar partners account, right? Revision study schedule. So Srinivas, revision study schedule, I think it depends from student to student, and it varies. So we cannot have a single schedule for everybody, right? So you decide which are your stronger subjects, you decide which are your weaker subjects, and accordingly allocate the times, right? Right now we have recorded classes, live. We may have few live sessions, right? But we may not have a full-fledged live classes, right? So I think we had a very good interaction, a lot of questions by you all. Yeah. Thanks for taking your time out and joining in. If you have any more queries, you can put it, after the chat, after this video ends, you can put it in the comment box. We will come and we'll respond back to you. Yeah, some more questions coming in. Which chapter should we give the priority? Again, there is a chapter-wise weightage which is available in the institute's website. So follow that. There is nothing like, this chapter has the highest weightage. Okay. Questions may come from study material, may not come from study material. So once you're thorough with the concepts, wherever the questions come from, you should be in a position to answer. Study timings. Okay. So study timings, if possible, start your studies as early as possible in the day. Okay, so after you get up, maybe spend some time in meditation or in silence. I'll not define it as meditation. After you get up, after your morning routines are done, spend 10 to 15 minutes in silence, right? You can do meditation, you can do something else, but spend in silence, closing your eyes. Early morning the better. So it could be like maybe 6 to 8 or 8:30 could be one slot where you will get the maximum output. Then take a break for your breakfast, relax for some time, and again before lunch do some 1 to 2 hours. Then after lunch again take a small break, and then you do 2 to 5 kind of stretch. Don't sleep in the afternoon between 2 to 5. Don't get into that habit, because that is your exam time. Again, before dinner you can have a before and after dinner 1 hour slot each you can have. Try to eat 2 to 3 hours before your bedtime, and try to maintain a gap of 10 to 12 hours between a dinner and the first meal in the morning, right? That will help you remain active. Whenever you are exhausted, or you feel that you're not able to get things. And one big problem is you always think that you're forgetting things. Now if that is the stage where you have reached, take a break, stay in silence for some time, and then you can continue with your preparation. Exams, we cannot define which exam will be easy. Okay, maybe possible November is easier or May is easier, so that is different. Live class in Zoom for asking doubts. So see, if you have any doubts, you can still put it out in the app what we have. Still, if it is not resolved, you can send a mail to support and we'll figure out a way to solve your doubts, right? So your feedback that we can have a Zoom session for doubt clearing, definitely I'll note it down. We will pass it on to the management, and we will see what best can be done to address your doubts, right? So thanks a lot for joining in. I'm calling off the sessions now. All the best. Don't be scared. Don't think that the November exams will be tough or December exams will be tough. Times are challenging. COVID has upset the entire world. We are no exceptions. Stay positive and prepare. Don't exhaust yourself before the examination, right? So all the best, and thank you.